Well, thank you very much for the invitation and for giving me the opportunity to talk here at this conference. I also had the chance to listen to the to some of the panel, which just discussed many of the important issues that the Commission is also dealing with at the moment, and actions to get to a more harmonized sustainability information is, of course, very much the core of what we're trying to do at the Commission and what we try to do through the Financial Services Action Plan. Better information allows markets to function better. Better information allows investors to take better decisions, and better decisions hopefully then lead to better allocation of capital and investment into more sustainable activities, which is what this is all about, what we're dealing with at the moment. Now, many of the pieces of the puzzle, I think, are already in place or are being put in place or are being still improved while they're already in place. And this is really, I think, what the last panel was already about. I mean, you know, SFDR, taxonomy, the suitability test, other elements. But what I would like to talk a bit more about today, and what is my current responsibility, is, if you want, the missing piece of the puzzle, and that's the information that is supposed to come from the corporates of this world. And if you want, in a certain way, that might be the most important piece of the puzzle. That's why we've left it to the end, to kind of increase the suspense a bit. No, sorry, that was inappropriate. It was really just a timing issue, I think. No, but in a sense, the most important piece, of course, is what comes from the corporates, because that is, if you want, the origin of the whole chain of information that needs to flow through sustainable finance markets and needs to inform, in the end, investors. Now, we're very happy that we've managed to reach agreement on the CSRD with Parliament and Council. We're very happy that EFRAG has been able to agree and give us a package of sustainability standards in a very short amount of time. And the framework that we'll put in place now, I think, is really going to be an ambitious one. I mean, I don't have to repeat all of this. I say it nevertheless. You know that all large and all listed companies in the EU will be subject to the requirement to report under CSRD and ESRS, and also non-EU companies, if there are above a certain size with their branches or subsidiaries. You know that our standards will take a full double materiality perspective. That means risks and opportunities and impacts in the sense of these companies have on the environment, on social and governance issues, will be covered. And you also know that the reports that will be published by companies will be audited, which again will introduce another element of reliability in the process. I think that EFRAG has been able to manage this on time is also due to the new structure that has been put in place within EFRAG, with the sustainability report and the technical expert group on the sustainability side. This new structure has allowed EFRAG to base itself on a wide group of stakeholders from all parts of society and the economy, which for us as a commission is very important, because of course EFRAG has a technical role. They need to give us advice, technical advice on what standards can do and how they should be phrased. But at the same time, there is, if you want, also a political element, or at least an element of packaging or of coming to a compromise, and that does involve taking account of all the different views of stakeholders and all the different interests. And I think in that respect, EFRAG really has done a very good job. And we're also very happy that the results of the extensive public consultation that EFRAG has undertaken have been taken into account, and that there has been a strong effort to balance, on the one hand, to have a complete and reliable set of standards, and to have a set of standards that is applicable and that is proportionate. Because we all know that the challenges that come with this really new way of reporting are big ones. Now it's up to the European Commission to adopt a delegated act and to adopt these standards formally as law. Now, of course, these standards need to fulfill a number of requirements that we're going to closely look at. They need to be in line with the CSRD itself, be within the scope, not outside, but also fulfill completely the scope of the CSRD. They need to be in line and be workable with the pieces of legislation that already exist, SFDR, taxonomy, climate law, and so on. They are also not they are not policy agnostic standards. They're standards that are part of the EU policy framework, and that's how we want them to work. And as I said already, this is double materiality. These standards are not only directed, if you want, at investors, but they're also directed at other types of stakeholders that are interested in impact or are affected by impact. And then finally, and I think it was also mentioned in the panel before, of course, these standards need to work with international developments. We as a commission have been in close contact with the ISSB over the last few months, together with EFRAG, and we've really put a lot of effort into trying to align what we are doing with what the ISSB is doing. Now, for the time being, this is mostly limited to the climate area, because this is what the ISSB is addressing at the moment. They've signaled that they're now going to move into biodiversity and other topics. But for the time being, it's really on climate. And the idea from our side is very clear. If you comply with European standards, you should automatically also cover everything that is required by the ISSB. For the time being, I think we're there. We still have to see what the ISSB is going to do between now and, say, February and March, when they are planning to vote. But I think we should be able to come to such an outcome, which is a good one. But then, of course, we also need to take the next steps. That means the moment that the ISSB is going to move into additional topics, we'll have to go through a similar process again and try and make sure that everything aligns properly. So what are we going to do now on the Commission side? As I said, we're going to review the standards closely, make sure that they're in line with the legal base. We've also given them to a large number of organizations for their comments, to ESMA, to EBA, to EIOPA, to the Environmental Agency, to the Fundamental Rights Agency, to the member states. The Parliament, of course, can come in, and any other type of stakeholder is welcome to send us their comments. And we will conduct another public consultation next spring, probably around March, April, in a sense to get another final input from stakeholders on the package that we will then adopt as a delegated act. Now, our approach in this process between now and, say, April or May, when the package will have to be finalized, is, first of all, make sure that everything is really in line with the CSRD. Make sure that everything works with what the ISSB has done and will still do. Correct any inaccuracies, any mistakes, if you want, within the standards. Correct any kind of language that stakeholders tell us really doesn't work or is difficult to apply. But at the same time, we also want to respect the process that has taken place within EFRAG, and we want to respect the package that has been given to us, which, as I said, for us is the outcome of a very good process, and for us also represents a balance of stakeholder views. So we would not like to reopen this. We would not like to redo debates that have already taken place in the fora that were asked to do this. And in a sense, we're also asking everyone, stakeholders, to please send us their comments in the light of this approach, because I think the most productive now is to really focus on the elements where we think that technically improvements need to be made, but we shouldn't redo the kind of political discussions that have happened before. Now, you also know that EFRAG has already started work now on the next wave of standards, which will be on listed SMEs, which will also be sectoral standards. And at some point, they will also do work on the non-EU companies, but that might come a little bit later, since that will really only be needed by 2028, when these rules will apply to non-EU companies. Now, we are confident, also based on the good work that has been done, that new reporting standards will, or do have the potential to really improve the situation. I think if we manage to get a system up and running by 2024 and then slowly extend it from the bigger to the smaller companies, that works, that is complete, that is reliable, but at the same time that is also proportionate and that is applicable, then we do have a very good chance that the whole process that was discussed before, many of the issues that have come up already in our discussions, that they will improve. Because in the end, a lot depends on data quality, depends on the possibility to really judge what the activities of companies are really about and what kind of transition pathways they have chosen. But at the same time, I think we also need to be realistic. And again, I think that's also a result of or an outcome of the panel before. The changes that we have put in place and that we're putting in place are enormous. They are enormous in terms of the disclosure, in terms of the reporting that we expect of corporates, of financial market participants, of others, but they're also enormous in terms of the capacity and the understanding that we expect of users. This is a very new field. There's a lot of information becoming available, and I think everyone is struggling with making sense of this information. Now, there's some out there who are downright trying to abuse the system, and we know that there is greenwashing. There are other types of activities out there. The incentives are high to try and sell things with a green color that is not really green. But at the same time, I think there is also a genuine problem that we're all struggling with, in a sense, how to categorize, how to understand, how to structure, how to analyze this kind of information. And then, of course, we shouldn't forget that the real underlying problem is, and that was also mentioned in the last panel, that the fundamentals of our economy are the ones that count. Because in the end, is not that we want to have very good reporting, it's we want to have different activities and different investment. And that, of course, takes even more time and is even more painful, this kind of transition, than just the reporting itself. So I think also on the European reporting standards and the CSRD, we need to be realistic. The system will need time to settle down. We will have to make efforts also over the coming years in terms of providing guidance, in terms of maybe adjusting or improving standards, in terms of moving into additional areas. I've already mentioned the sectoral standards. And for all of this, we'll need a concerted effort, not just by the Commission, but still by EFRAG, by the supervisory authorities, by market participants, by analysts, by other types of stakeholders. And to conclude, overall, I am very positive, because when I see the kind of debate that is taking place today compared to the kind of debate that we had 3 or 4 years ago, it is a completely different one. 3 or 4 years ago, we still had a debate, should we do these things, should we not do them? Is this asking too much? Can we really require financial market participants to do these things? I think all of that is accepted now. It has to happen. The problem, of course, is the quality isn't always there. Not everyone has adjusted in the right way. And many of the concepts that we've introduced, all the requirements still need to be further refined and developed. But I think overall, the process has started and we're on a good way. And as I said, the new requirements that will come in on reporting for corporates can play an important role here. Thank you very much for your attention.